everyone. Glad to see you all virtually. You are joining us now for another segment, whatever you want to call it, of PAC Ask, What Are You Up To? It's so happy to be back. It's been a little bit of time since we've done one of these, but today we have a special guest. I don't know if you've heard, but we have two brand new artistic associates joining the PAC team, and one of them is here with us today, Eli Lynn. Can we get a round of applause? Oh yes. Wave to the lovely people, louder.
I hear you through my screen. Thank you, kind people.
Trust me, they're clapping for you because I'm sure y'all know Eli Lynn. I'm sure you've seen them on stage and off stage. They've done PAC shows. They did Sea Voyage with us. That was the last season we were all together. 2019, that was in the Sea Voyage with us. Eli also is an amazing actor, writer, I found out. Didn't know. Something awesome this way comes. Comedic actor, painter, set designer, or like builder, would you say, Eli?
More carpenter, like a grunt. I'm a really efficient grunt.
Really efficient grunt, musician. Eli does it all. And so if you haven't seen them in Philly or like any other nearby areas, you've been sleeping, and I'm happy to introduce them to you. So, hey, Eli, how are you?
Hey, Tay, I'm doing really well. How are you?
Oh, I'm really dandy. You already talked a little bit about all of the amazing things that you do. I'm sure that I missed quite a few things, but do you mind just like for any audience members who, like I said, don't know you, can you just like tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about like maybe where you grew up, perchance, how you came to Philly?
My name is Eli. My pronouns are they, them. I've lived in Philadelphia for 6 years now. I say it all the time, but I feel like the last year doesn't count when I like count how many years I've done a thing, but I think it's 6. I'm originally from Alabama, Texas, and then Alabama. I went to school in Virginia, and then I did that itinerant actor thing where you go wherever you have a job. So I worked at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. I worked at theaters in Annapolis and DC and Florida and New York, and then finally settled in Philadelphia so that my partner and I could be together in a space about 6 years ago.
To lovers, know who your partner is, and I would love if you could just maybe shout them out or say.
Oh my God. I would love to shout them out. My partner is Vanessa Sterling, and she is absolutely stunning and extremely talented. She is an actor and a singer, and they arrange music, and they're a really good classical actor, but they also do musical theater. We've been together for 7 years now, slightly over 7 years. And it is, I don't know when this comes out, so like what is time, but her birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday.
Amen, happy birthday. A special happy birthday to Vanessa, whose birthday was on July 24th, Saturday. Amazing.
She's also based in Philadelphia. She may come audition for you at some time. At this moment, I can shout out the project she's working on. She's working on a project with Liz Filios. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten the name of it, but it's a musical about female fighter pilots. So keep an ear out for that, because it sounds like it's going to be really cool.
That's awesome. Also, I like personally have met Vanessa, and I can totally like see her in like an awesome like pilot costume. I don't know if that's like the.
She has one of those Amelia Earhart hats that she wore for a costume for a thing once. It's a very good look.
Amazing. I mean, especially with the short hair too.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it is now, but I mean, well, that sounds really, really dope. Amazing. We love Vanessa and Liz Filios, so definitely check out for that. Also have seen Vanessa in the latest reading we did of Jane Eyre. So yeah, you definitely seen her face, and hopefully we'll see. And when we do the real production, hopefully she'll make a return. Part of these like PAC Ask, What Are You Up To series was to reach different artists that we've worked with in the past that we know you've all missed because of the pandemic and probably haven't seen, and ask them, you know, what are you up to? What are you doing now during this pandemic? How are you finding joy? What is, you know, giving you peace at this moment? And so we stopped doing them for a little bit because it seemed like there was a bit of a return to theater, and we were able to kind of see some of our favorite theater artist again. But this one is really, really special because we have a show that, Eli, you're doing right now. Can you talk about what project you're currently working on now that they can all see in person if they so choose?
Why, yes, I can, Tay. I am in A Midsummer Night's Dream at Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival up in Center Valley at the campus of DeSales. I play flute and Thisbe, and I did the fight choreography, of which there's not a lot, but there's some comedic squabbles. And I play a bunch of music. Alex Bechtel did some really beautiful music for it. So
we forgot to mention in the intro that Eli is an amazing fight choreographer and fighter and mover. So you did fight choreography for this. You've done fight choreography for a lot of shows. Well, for Sea Voyage, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Any other projects that you were particularly proud of?
Well, the other one I did with PAC was 'Tis Pity She's a Whore. Mm-hmm. And I liked that a lot. On opening night, and it was in the round, so you could watch people across from you, which is always entertaining. And there was a part that I choreographed where someone pinned someone else to the ground through their Achilles tendon, and someone on the other side of the audience was like, oh! And I was like, oh, good. I feel good about this. The thing I did right before pandemic was Shakespeare in Love at People's Light, and I was really proud of that, and I was sad that it was cut short because I wanted people to come see all the fights and stuff. I was very, very pleased with that project.
Can concur. I've seen both, and they were both lovely for very different reasons.
A very different tone.
Very different tone. But yeah, so talking a bit more about Midsummer, yesterday with some PAC friends, Cassie Alexander, and a PAC favorite, Mariah Gant. But it was just so lovely. It felt like a very, very nice and welcoming way to return to theater with other people. Fun show anyway. Can you talk a little bit about, like, you also played instruments in that show? Can you just talk about, this is a lot, but like, how did it feel being on stage and doing this particular show?
Fortunate in that last summer I also got to do a very small outdoor children's show that was just 2 people at People's Light, just like in the grass outside. So I hadn't been completely Zoom ridden, as a lot of people have been. And then I did another project with People's Light that was sort of a community improv, outdoor sort of project with a slightly larger group of people. So I feel like I eased into returning to theater in a way that maybe other people didn't, which I'm very thankful for, because when I did the project with People's Light earlier this spring, I guess, is when we first started doing it, we like met in person. It was only 8 people, but suddenly like being physically in a space with 8 people and being asked to just do like very simple theater warm-up games, I was like, oh my god, like it was I thought, oh, this might be stressful, but then it was actually more stressful than I thought it would be, for some reason. Just sort of the vulnerability of being physically with people and being asked to. Cast is like, the whole team is so splendid. It's very supportive, very fun, very low stress. There's not a single diva in the group, which is great, thank God. The campus is beautiful. The show is, I don't want to say easy, but like, it's not King Lear, you know what I mean? It's summer, and I'm a mechanical, so I'm just a clown. And I get to go be a clown with a bunch of other clowns, for an audience of people that is really excited to just see people. Like, I really like getting to play music and stuff, and Bechtel's music is always really fun, so that was also something I really was looking forward to coming into it.
Yeah, let's talk about the music, because it was really, really beautiful. And I think I didn't know a lot of the musicians, but Justin Yoder, I think, was playing cello on the ground. You played different instruments I saw on stage. So can you talk a little bit more about the music and like playing on stage and what that was like?
Justin Yoder is sort of the primary musician in charge who just musicians, and he's on stage or just to the side of the stage, musician the whole time. And he's mostly playing cello and some piano. He's amazing. He's an amazing musician. And he and Bechtel worked a lot on, there's a lot of underscoring in the show. There are a couple songs, like 3 songs, that are songs with words that people sing, but then there's also just underscoring this bed of music through the whole thing that I love in live shows. I love when that happens. And then I play guitar, steel string guitar, for sort of the first few things that I do. And then I play concertina for the last couple things that I do. And then we also have some people on ukuleles, and then we have a drum line, which is super fun. We came into rehearsals and they had just sort of like, here are all the instruments that we have kicking around at the sales, and Bechtel just started like picking things up and being like, well, what can we do with all this stuff? And so now we have like a fairy drum line, which is amazing. And they like come in at like moments of celebration, but kind of randomly, in the way that, you know, in Dora the Explorer, when she succeeds, those little mariachi bugs show up and are like, yay! The fairy drum line sort of shows up to be like just little random moments of joy, which is hysterical. I'm all about it.
That's great. I totally see that. Now that you've said it, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. I think that should be the tagline. Fairy drum line. Like
fairy drum line. The whole show starts with a fairy drum line.
Can we do a quick list? I know it's pretty long, of the instruments that you know how to play.
Most proficient to least proficient, because there's some things that I'm like, yeah, give that to me and give me a couple weeks and I'll come back and play it for you. And there are other things that like I could play right away for you. So the things that I am best at is guitar, steel string, and classical guitar, banjo, 5-string banjo, bass. I've played upright bass, and electric bass, mandolin, ukulele, going through all the strings first. I play Anglo concertina, which is what I'm playing in this, which is sort of like an accordion, but it's tuned very differently. It's tuned like nothing else, which is kind of why I chose it, because I'm a glutton for punishment. I played in my youth, I played French horn. You give me a brass instrument, I can probably figure it out. My embouchure is awful at this point. I play piano. I play ocarina, which is this little flute, Jim Jam. I can do percussion. I don't play drum kit. That was something I was looking to add to the list, but that's a very specific skill.
Because you need to add that, of course. You don't.
I do.
You don't have enough. Oh my God.
And then other things that I've like, I learned a little bit of cello once, violin, and my fingering is still okay, but my bowing sounds like I'm murdering a cat. So I would have to really practice to make my violin worth listening to at this point. But yeah, I think that's the list.
Well, my goodness, you amaze. I'm just sitting here like, oh wow, okay. Oh wow, okay. It's gonna stop eventually. Oh wow, okay. That's right. You do play all these instruments. It's just impressive.
And I don't play any woodwinds. I can't play the flute. I just drool on myself. It's very disappointing.
Sure. Yeah, I would be disappointed seeing you play all the other instruments you play really, really well, and then you're just, on stage drooling? I'd be like,
And you're like, now play this flute. And I'm like, because that's what it is.
Yeah, that's not what we wanted, Eli. Now
you know my weakness.
Not
woodwinds. Woodwinds are my weakness.
Yeah, flute. You were trained in musical theater, which is something I did not know. Did all of you know that? Like, there we go. Can you talk a little bit about, do you like musical? I feel like I haven't seen you in like a bunch of musicals.
I have a BFA in musical theater, so yeah.
Is amazing, because I did not know that you could sing, but you can sing, and there is singing in Midsummer and music, which we've established, but there's also singing, and we talked about that, and it sounds lovely. So can you talk a little bit about like the difference of like musical theater performing and like classical acting, which I feel you do a bit more of? Do you have a preference? It seems like you do, but I don't want to speak for you.
No, I love them both. I love pretty much all kinds of acting. My degree is in musical theater. To be honest, the reason that I do a lot more classical theater nowadays is a couple of reasons. One, the fact that I do so much stage combat makes me very valuable for classical theater. So that's good. I'm good at heightened language, which is not something all actors are good at. So that's also means that I am more in the running for classical theater things. Also, classical theater tends to gender bend more. And so so more roles are open to me. And in musical theater, I mean, not just because of voice parts. You could argue that it's partially because of voice parts, but I think in a large part, just the industry of musical theater tends to not really cast race or gender other than what the original, production was. And now more recent musicals are starting to sort of expand, and have more opportunities for people who aren't, cis white people, some straight cis white people, but there just aren't really that many. And especially the way that I present, like, I used to joke that my niche was period sluts and little boys, because I can play little boys. And then I can do like Candor and Ebb things, because I dance. I really like classical theater, because there's really beautiful classical theater out there.
So, okay, we need more better casting choices. All right, Philly theater.
Across the board, better casting choices. Thank you.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you for sharing that, because honestly, I think it always helps when people have a little bit more knowledge about the way things actually are in the theater industry. And some people probably never thought of that.
I'm very lucky that Matt Pfeiffer approached me about the role, and he was like, so listen, I know this is kind of tricky, because if you're not familiar with the play, Flute's whole thing, he's a mechanical, and which are usually they're all men, and he gets assigned the role of like the damsel in distress, Thisbe, and he has this line that says, "Nay, Faith, let me not play a woman. I have a beard coming." And so the joke, whenever you see it, is always like, haha, a man in a dress. But luckily, we're moving past the point where we think that men in dresses are inherently funny, because there's nothing inherently funny about a man in a dress. Funny men in dresses are funny. But when Pfeiffer approached me about it, he was like, so I think you would be a really good flute, and let's think about how we want to address this storytelling that is usually told in these really gendered ways, and we can still make it truthful, but with you as a non-binary person. And so we found this, it's about the humor of the moment, even in the gendered way, is about the subverted expectations of the character, right? Flute expects to be a knight, to be cast as a knight, and then gets cast as a damsel. So that can be played without being gendered. And we had a lot of chats about, what does Flute expect it to be? Like, and so we sort of settled on like, Flute is pretty sure they're gonna get to play like John Wick.
Oh man.
And then they're like, no, you're gonna play the fair maiden who doesn't get to do any sword fighting or anything. And the dissonance of that is what's funny, not like a man in a dress.
Right.
So we had to be a lot more thoughtful and intentional about our choices, which I think just made it better, and made it easier to make clear choices for the comedy, because it's really clear what the character wants versus what the character is presented. And Ian Peaks is playing Bottom, and he is hysterical, and he's such a good clown that like being on stage with him, like you just got to step up your game if you're going to I can't even say compete, but not fall really far behind. So that has been really great.
I was just amazed seeing that dying scene. It's like, how do you come up with these creative ways of like, okay, that was funny, how do I make it funnier? You know what I mean?
No, you just think of bits and you're like, this is how this bit exists now. What are the parts that can be like fine-tuned? What are the parts that aren't as funny that I don't need? What are the parts that I do need that are like the build up to the punchline? What is the progression of it? Because early on there was sort of a draft where the funniest bit sort of came first, and then and then it sort of did this, and I was like, no, like you need to be mindful of the topography of your joke so that you don't give it all away at the beginning. Like, how do you craft the energy of the whole bit? And so every night hearing the audience laugh and feeling when you have people and when you don't, and when you do a thing and you're like, that's gratuitous, that's not helping me, that's just taking up space. And like, what do other people do? Can you call back to something they do? And another thing that is really useful is that I'm just trying to make those other actors on stage laugh. So trying to surprise people without being, can I say masturbatory?
Yeah.
Great. You know when actors are masturbatory and it's like inside jokes? I don't want it to be any inside jokes. I want the audience to be there for literally all of it, which means I got to be real clear about what I set up for them.
So surprisingly analytical about a comedy. I don't think
Listen, people always think comedies are easy because you can just be like at an 11 the whole time and it's funny. And like, no, comedy clowning is orchestrated. It is clean. Like that's when it's funny. Chaos is, I mean, that's a very specific kind of humor and too much of it is not funny.
Yeah. I think also, I know for me watching it, it was such a joy to see the lovers on stage watching you all and just like breaking character. Not that you like are like, oh, our actor's breaking character, but it's just like that show, Midsummer is so like, they invite you into the world. There's direct address to the audience. The audience is, supposed to feel very much a part of the show. And so when you are also enjoying something on stage and you look around, at least for me, and see if the other actors are also enjoying something, it's like, oh yeah, we're all in this together.
I love that. It's like we're letting you in on a secret.
Yeah, y'all should come and see it. It's until August 1st at 6:30 p.m. It's really, really fun. You're gonna definitely enjoy yourself. You're gonna laugh a lot, I can promise you that. So definitely go and see Midsummer. Next for Eli Lynn, we talked so much about Midsummer. What do you have coming up next?
Well, I've written a thing for Fringe for PAC, so that's coming up, and I'll be doing the fight for that. Can't say too much about that because it's still all secret and stuff, but that's coming up.
Everyone, you heard that. Wait and see. PAC has something really, really fun that we are planning, and you'll find out soon, but not today. Today is not the day. You'll find out soon. Eli, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us today on PAC Ask. What are you up to? I had fun. I hope you had fun.
I had fun.
Oh, amazing. Well, thanks y'all for watching. Like I said, we have some really fun stuff coming up, so check out that. And also go see Midsummer. You have until August 1st, and it's really, really fun. And you'll be seeing more from the both of us and the other members of the PAC family soon. So have a great, great rest of your summer, and see you soon, friends. Bye.